Kind of feel like a broken record here on this channel with these characters sometimes. That Marble? What are you doing with the Powercreep? What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all have had a wonderful week, and happy Friday to all of you out there watching. In today's video, we are going to be continuing our ongoing Soulcalibur 6 coverage by taking a look at yet another character with this latest banner, and that of course is going to be Ivy, or otherwise known as what the hell is going on in this game and why is Powercreep so ridiculously bonkers. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's just go ahead and talk about it, right? So this is of course going to be the purple attack type Ivy, the premium EX Ivy that is going to be on the latest Volume 2 Soulcalibur 6 banner. And yeah, this character, as predicted, is going to end up being one of the top characters in the game, if not the top character in the game at the moment. And yeah, it's pretty obvious as to why as you go through the kit, but we'll just talk about it. So as I mentioned, she is a purple attack type, which is, you know, kind of a controversial topic for some people out there. A lot of people are tired of seeing all of these really heavy-duty DPS characters being purple types, but at the same time, does it really make that big of a difference these days? Not really. So either way, I don't really mark points against her for it, but I would prefer her to be, you know, maybe blue, maybe even a green, you know, anything, but it is what it is. Now, with that being said, she also has a leadership ability that increases Soulcalibur 6 fighters' attack by 65%, which is pretty good. Obviously, the 65% increase to attack for anybody is going to be a very nice leadership ability, and of course, Ivy is going to carry that leadership ability for the Soulcalibur 6 crew, which is very, very good, and you'll end up using that quite often, I'd imagine. Now, with that said, what sets this character apart? It's pretty much going to be the usual things. Of course, we're going to talk about the cores and we'll talk about the skills, but if we take a look here, this character, really what she's trying to accomplish is she's actually going to be feeding off of things such as crits, and that is not a surprise considering the fact that most of these characters nowadays, it's going to be crits and physical damage that they're really going to be playing off of, insofar as why they're going to be doing such big numbers, right? But if we take a look here at Ivy Blade, she enters a Fury state for 7 seconds upon using an active skill. This deals physical damage equal to 300% of attack to the target every time a skill lands on a cooldown of 7 seconds, which is really nice because basically what this means, if you notice here, 7 seconds is the duration, 7 seconds is the cooldown, so basically this thing is almost always going to be active, right? Now she's going to increase her physical damage by a further 400% of critical rate for 6 seconds upon landing a critical hit. So this is why, part of why I say she feeds off of crits. Increasing your physical damage by 400% of your critical rate for 6 seconds is pretty ridiculous. But she also has a 50% chance to apply fear on all enemies for 0.5 seconds and decreases her finisher skill cooldown by 1 second upon landing an attack, guard included, and you will notice that that does not have a cooldown. So this right here is super busted, and part of the reason why, one of the main reasons why actually this character is so good, these exclusive cores here, particularly this Ivy Blade, is just absolutely busted. And I don't think I need to really explain why when you take a look at all this. This character also, because her basic string has such a long range on it, I think on the 3rd hit of it with her whip, she's actually going to be able to apply fear in mobs very easily and very quickly, and be able to control mobs very well. So this is another big boon to her kit, and something you probably won't see a lot of people talk about because a lot of people don't consider mobs or basics, but this character does have a very good one, and it's worth noting, I feel like, at least. Now, when we move on to the next one here, we have Truth Behind Her Birth. This means she is immune to Stun, Freeze, Petrify, and Fear, some of the best CCs in the game. She's also going to gain damage immunity for 5 seconds when her HP is 20% or less on a cooldown of 9 seconds, with a PvP exclusive of removing buffs from the target's active skills upon landing a critical hit. And then of course she does have that Soulcalibur 6 exclusive core that all the characters share, and I'm not going to go back into that because we've already talked about it. If you have not seen my previous videos on any of these characters, go check it out. But with that being said, she does have that 5-second immunity when her HP is 20% or less. That is a lifesaver. No pun intended there, but being that it is a save and that this character, her biggest issue is she's very squishy, that is going to be something that's very beneficial for her, on top of being able to recover that 15% HP when attacked in guard stance. So overall, really good stuff, you guys. but it continues to get better when we take a look at the skills. And of course, I will get into some footage. We'll talk about the build, obviously. You guys know how we do these videos. But first, I want to go through everything and just kind of give you my overall opinion of what I'm seeing on my first impressions. So, before we talk about the skills, I want to talk about her EX score. So she's going to have Thrill. This resets tag cooldowns and increases critical rate of all team members by 12% and critical damage by 35% for 15 seconds. Pretty okay. Not a bad one at all by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, there is something that is more important to focus on here, no pun intended again, and that is Extreme Focus. Now, this decreases Raging Gnome EX and Mistress Justice EX skill cooldowns by 95% for 3.5 seconds upon using it. I'm sure you guys know how this works. It's basically your double concentration, and it is one of the most busted overall things that you could get for an EX skill when it comes to these characters. And being that that is the case with this one, this is going to mean that this character's damage output is going to be just filthy. So if we take a look here, now that we kind of know what to expect if we fully max her out and fully invest in her, you'll now kind of see why that's such a big deal for her. But if we take a look here, she is going to have Creeping Ivy EX on her S1. This increases critical damage by 50% for 9 seconds upon landing a skill, increases critical rate by 30% for 9 seconds upon landing a skill, and resets Creeping Ivy EX cooldown upon landing a skill on a cooldown of 20 seconds. So overall, if you take a look at this skill, again, crits, crits, crits. And being that this character feeds off of crit rate, being that she has that 30% increase there for that 9 seconds, really, really good. So this character, of course, does have that Extreme Focus, and that is actually going to be affecting on her S2 and her S3. So let's talk about those real quick here. That way we have a full breadth of knowledge on the actual kit. Now, this is going to be an interrupt on the S2. It's going to increase attack by 130% for 9 seconds upon a successful attack. It increases Raging Gnome EX skill damage by 150% for 5 seconds upon landing a skill, and then increases Mistress Justice EX's skill damage by 150% for 5 seconds upon landing a skill. So that is what you are going to see there on the S2. Again, that is one of the ones that is going to be affected by Extreme Focus. So when you see all these percentages, you see all these multipliers, you see all these increases, and you see this character's damage output, just imagine that at a 5 or a 6 or a 7 for that matter, even with the ability to be able to spam this skill in the next one we're going to be talking about. Pretty stupid. Now, Mistress Justice EX is going to be a derived skill, right? Now, of course, you've probably already assumed this is going to be her interrupt with hyper armor, so this is limited to standing or airborne, so you can't use this while knocked down, but it is what it is. She increases the Raging Gnome EX skill damage by 150% for 5 seconds upon landing a skill, and increases the target's damage received by 60% for 8 seconds upon landing a skill. Now, finally here, down at the bottom, the final part of this, if you want to go through the whole derived skill, it is going to deal physical damage equal to 300% of attack every 0.1 seconds for 1.5 seconds upon landing a skill, so more physical damage and big numbers. So again, guys, this character, pretty obvious what she's trying to do, right? Not the most complicated character in the world. There's not really a gimmick here. It's really basic, but that is a good thing because sometimes you want to keep it simple. And this character, she keeps it very simple, and I enjoy that. I appreciate that about you, Ivy. Thank you. So, finally here, guys, if we take a look, she does have effects on her finishers. First up here is going to be the core finisher. This is going to be another interrupt core finisher, limited to standing, airborne, or knockdown, so you can pretty much throw this out whenever you need it. And you have a 90% chance to reset all of your active skill cooldowns when using a skill. Pretty standard stuff with a lot of these new characters. Don't think I need to explain why that's so good. And you increase your active skill damage by 160% for 10 seconds upon using it. One of the biggest things about this character before we talk about the 3PG is this character is able to go in because of the resets, because of the skill cooldown on her ultimate moves and so on. She is able to go in and spam her finishers extremely effectively. And what that basically translates to is more big numbers. That's why whenever we get to the footage and you guys see her against Nightmare Geese, while you will notice her survivability is a little bit on the low side, like I had mentioned, you will have to go ahead and try to abuse some of the things that you have in your arsenal to keep her going, like for instance that exclusive core, and like you'll see in the footage, I actually have a healing striker, which thankfully Mina is going to be a healing striker for her, so that helps her out quite a bit. But all those things being said, it isn't necessarily anything that should come as a surprise, because she is an attack type and she is a DPS, so it would be pretty much go without saying that this character is going to be a little bit squishy, right? So with that said, though, we need to talk about the other effect here. Now, this is going to be on her 3PG. This increases attack by 15% for 10 seconds upon using it, and increases Guilty Throne EX damage by 30% for each finisher skill used. And as you guys can see here, this will stack up to 3 and resets when Guilty Throne EX is used. So this character really wants to be using this finisher, and we've noticed this as a trend really in the meta lately with a lot of these new characters, really wanting to be able to spam finishers. They use their finishers very easily. They have things such as interrupts and so on those that makes that a lot more accessible for them. So this character really is going to be kind of a prime example of the current meta, and I think that this character probably will end up defining the current meta for however long it takes Netmarble to release the next banner, right? So that's usually how power creep goes, because when you see the power creep on these characters lately, it's not gonna change, right? It's only gonna get worse. So kind of crazy to think about that, but that's pretty much what we got with the kit. This character, very basic stuff. I don't really have a whole lot I need to go into in-depth with here, so let's just talk about the build, right? So as you guys can see, this is going to be the build I'm using. If you saw my summon video, you would know that I ended up with 3 parts of the second part of the set, so I ended up going in and exchanging for the third part, which was the one I was missing, so now I have a full set. Very, very good set for these characters. Please make sure you pick it up if you're planning on building these characters. And again, as I've always told you guys, you should be focusing on cards regardless, right? With that said, I do have these options here for your basic EX characters. So if you guys aren't aware, this one's for critical rate here. And then this one right here is going to be for critical damage. Both are going to boast increases to attack and skill cooldown. So that's pretty much what you got there. Standard stuff. I'm not doing anything that's too crazy here. You take a look at these stones. I don't even have a moonstone on this character yet. I'll have that later on today. I haven't had a whole lot of time, admittedly, to play around with either of the new characters that I just got. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that tonight. But these are the stones I got right now, just your standard attack Soulcalibur stones. So that's basically about it. So that's what we've got as far as the build, you guys. My opinion on this character, again, I feel like a broken record, but really all these characters as they release lately are just absolutely stupid. They just keep leapfrogging each other over and over and over again. And so it's one of those situations where it's hard for me to get too overly hype about her, because I feel like I do this every other week. So with that being said, I'll let you guys see the footage for yourselves. It's pretty ridiculous what this character is able to put out. I'm actually more interested right now to be able to sit down and play with both Mina and the Catsuit Ivy, because this character on paper you could already tell was going to be this broken. But I'm more curious to see just how good Mina is, because I'm really curious about her. I think she's going to be really strong. And then the Catsuit version of Ivy is just ridiculous for a free character. So at the end of the day, these characters are all really good. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them, personally. I think that if you wanted any of these characters, you could make a case for any of them. They're all supremely strong. And in my opinion, just pick who your favorite is. And if you have the ability to, just get them all. they're really, really strong. And I don't necessarily know that Netmarble is going to introduce anything going forward in the near future that these characters can't necessarily handle if they're properly invested in, but we'll see. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you see the footage, but this is, of course, going to be my fame, so if you guys want to check that out, there's that. But with that being said, I will be back with tomorrow's video. I hope you guys found it enjoyable. Like, share, and subscribe on your way out if you did, and until the next time, you all take care. Peace.
Continue.